Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel. Now, this is a first. We usually do not have the same driver to come back and back and back. And this is Jeff from South Carolina. He's the Sunshine Man, and Jeff is one of our valuable viewers on Show Me the Money, but he's become a good friend actually over the last couple of years, I would say. And this is his third third episode on Behind the Wheel. Why? You people are going to say why? What's so special about Jeff? Well, there are a few things special about Jeff that we're going to talk about. So, Jeff, with that said, introduce yourself. Not that you need it. You've become an internet celebrity now with your book and all. But introduce yourself and we'll go on from there.
Well, obviously, my name is Jeff, and my business name really is the Sunshine Man. And I have been a rideshare driver for 6 years, just over 6 years. The last five, I've been primarily just driving with Uber, and it's been more fun than I think a driver should be allowed to have, which I tell my passengers on a regular basis. But the last 3 years, I've been semi-retired. This is all I do. I drive here in Myrtle Beach, where I live, and also drive south about an hour and a half to Charleston, which I enjoy doing. It's not only very different driving, a very different area, much larger, but also the Charleston has upfront pricing, and Myrtle Beach has pretty good rates, but it's the old card rate, which is still the new card rate here. So,
Okay. Well, so with that
um,
introduction, let's remind folks why you're on the third time. So the first time we did it, the Jeff got a lot of caught a lot of heat, but he loves it, So don't be shy. Come in the comments and do whatever you need to do, and he will come in and respond to all of you pretty much. But the first one did like 45,000 views, Jeff, and the headline for that was, here's a driver that accepts 100% of the trips, 100% acceptance rate, right? And then we did a second one, follow up, and now we're doing a third one, which I think is really a sensitive issue amongst the driver community. And we're going to talk about that. But before we jump into that, so are you still at 100% acceptance rate?
yeah, intentionally, I think this year I did out of frustration. I did take one ride, and last year there were two rides I didn't take. But I, you know, it almost doesn't matter. I do check to make sure they aren't long distance and I'm not able to do it for whatever reason. And that's what happened last year. I had two on the same day that I could not do. One was
Okay. Wow.
6 hours round trip, but anyway, yeah, I do. I go out to drive, and one thing I've learned is that over the years there are plenty of riders who have trouble getting a ride, and I'd rather take the ride than leave it for someone else to do.
Okay. Well, look, there are many ways to skin this rideshare cat. Okay. Um, a lot of people say it's because of drivers like you who accept everything is the reason Uber and Lyft are lowering the fares on drivers. Personally speaking, no, I'm not buying that. What I'm saying is that, believe me, folks, I have tried to convert him over the last 2 years to become a cherry picker. Not going to work. Just not going to work. I quit. I gave up. But before we jump into the actual subject that we're going to talk about today, what did you do before you were semi-retired or retired and was a rideshare driver? I mean,
Well,
well, became a rideshare driver. Yeah.
when I came to South Carolina from New Jersey, I knew that I needed a second income. So rideshare was the second income. My wife started, and I followed her. But I was a independent contractor courier here for 3 years, And in New Jersey, I had my own business, distribution business, where I had anywhere from 8 to 17 independent contractor drivers delivering free magazines. I also worked for USA Today as a driver, district manager, circulation manager, Auto Trader magazines. I did the same thing. So I've basically been a driver or IC driver for most of my life, at least the last 25 years or so.
Okay,
So
so you
I've
were,
always been,
yeah, you were an
I've
independent
always
contractor,
yeah,
always.
I've always been a big proponent of being an independent contractor. I thought it was great because that's been my experience way before Uber and Lyft. It got us through. It helped us raise 3 kids and paid a lot of bills. And as a second and a third income, being an IC driver was terrific. It
Yeah.
always has.
And do you believe currently the way rideshare is? Well, I know
been.
what your answer is going to be, but I want you to explain it. Why to our audience? Do you believe that Uber and Lyft drivers are independent contractors? Should be considered independent contractors?
Oh, absolutely, no question. I've debated this for probably a decade or maybe close to 2 decades on people who said, well, they should be employees. And it was always a big issue where I worked. And at times I was a manager and I supervised um, employee drivers or independent contractor drivers. But this is, to me, this has always been, I do it part-time, but I look at it as it's part-time work that some people do full-time.
Yeah.
And I give people a lot of credit, and I've communicated with a lot of drivers who are full-time. I give them all the credit in the world because I mean they're out hustling. They got a plan. They do a lot of different things, and I know I used to do that, but not as an Uber driver. I
Okay.
just drive between Friday and Sunday, and basically do around 100 days, 100 full days a year.
Yeah, I was
So,
just going to ask you that. So you do 3 days a week, right? But then you go all out when you do 3 days, 12-hour shifts, right?
well, typically I've been for almost the whole time that I've been semi-retired. The last 3 years I've done 12-hour days. I prefer that. I'm used to working, driving on the road 14, 16, even 19 hours a couple days a week. So 12 hours is not a big deal for me. Recently, over the last 6 months or so, I've been easing up on that, only not because of that I wanted to do less. It's just that I found that sometimes in the morning I'm not getting the response that I want. And as much as I like early mornings, I've cut back a little bit here and there. So most of my days are, especially in Charleston, is they're between 10 and 11 and a half, which doesn't sound like a big difference, but for me it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so basically you turn the app on, you trust the algorithm that it's going to feed you. And so now we're going to get to the nitty-gritty. Okay. A lot of drivers, I mean, look, I talked to, I don't know, tens of thousands of drivers, seriously. And there is one common ground is that, as you know, like you said, in Myrtle Beach, there is no upfront fares where you get to see the destination of the rider, right? And you in Charleston, there is upfront fares. So that's you obviously like seeing where the rider is going. There is no question about that.
Yeah, it takes away the element of surprise,
Yeah.
uh, which yeah, I appreciate that. But basically, when I'm driving, I'm taking the ride wherever it goes, and then I adjust where I'm going. I adjust what I want to do after that.
Okay. But when do you like when a ride takes you, we call it nature hikes, somewhere that there is no demand, do you dead mile back? Like, do you get back to the zone or
It varies. Actually, the past Sunday, not this last Sunday, the one before, I had just that thing, and it was mid-morning. It was a beautiful day, and I got actually the one ride. It was a long ride. It was an hour long, 54 miles. And I knew if I stayed online, even if I put on destination, I wasn't going to get anything for a while. So I thought, okay, I can go halfway back and then go online, or I could go all the way back. Just so happened that day, because of the situation, it was beautiful weather and all. I figured, you know what, I'm just gonna take it easy, drive all the way back, and I wasn't complaining. I got a $16 tip on a $40 ride, and so as far as
Okay.
I'm concerned, for the hour I worked, it
Okay.
was it
All
was
right. So,
good.
the common ground with a lot of the drivers since upfront fare showed up, it's not nationwide, but I would say probably covers 80% of the nation. And there are places like Myrtle Beach and other places that upfront fares does not exist. Well, I don't know why, honestly. I think that's one gripe I have with Uber and Lyft, that as an independent contractor, we should know the job ahead of time, what the job is. I mean, why are you hiding that, right? I don't see the point of drivers driving blind without knowing where they're going, but that's a different issue. So a lot of drivers tell me that since upfront fares started, okay, their income, their earnings, gross earnings has declined on an average now, this is average, 20 to 30%. And I am sure you are part of a Facebook group or some social media group in your city, and you do quite often probably read or hear the same thing, right? Well, now, again, this is one driver, one city. Now, I'm not saying that this is not true, but then we're going to talk about that a little bit here. Um, have you experienced that, the same decline in your earnings by 20 to 30%, in some cases more, just because of upfront fares? Because a lot of drivers are telling me that, yeah, we love seeing, where the rider is going, but we feel like this was an exchange of lower earnings to see the, driver, I mean, to see the rider destination. What do you say to that?
Well, as you know, I'm a numbers guy.
Yeah,
So when this came out, I wanted to know right away. What they were telling us was the longer rides, there was a bigger cut. That's where the money is, and they were paying the shorter rides more. So right away, at first time I did it, I started checking on all the rides I did in Charleston. So I have a whole notebook that I
yeah,
started doing 2 years ago, and I would write down all the numbers. And I like this. So I'll
yeah,
write down the numbers, and I'll sit there at breakfast, and the ones I have to use a calculator, I'll just calculate it out and do it. It's been fun for me, but in the beginning, it was obvious to me that somewhere between 3, 5, 7%, that's I was down compared to the old card rate in Charleston. So I'm driving during the day. I'm not driving nighttime. It's just during the day, and I'm accepting all rides. So I get the small rides, the long rides, everything in between. But as it went on, and I would sit down every week and do this, I realized that it was changing, because I could see, you often say, actually, about a year ago, I said to you, if Uber increased the pay, would anyone notice?
yeah,
And you know what? I think the answer is I'm not sure anyone would notice.
yeah,
So I've mentioned it to you. I stopped doing the calculations every week because I could tell I was coming out ahead. At some point, it switched and they adjusted it, and I was coming out slightly ahead. So I stopped doing it. And then, I read something on Facebook about, upfront pricing. I'm like, all right, well, let me start doing it again. And I did it again for a while, and then I stopped again. Well, I'm back doing it again, but I'm ready to stop, because what I'm looking at now is very different than the beginning. All right, that ride that I just told you about, the long ride that was 54 miles and 60 minutes, I was 70 cents less than the upfront, because I'm from the
right,
rate card previously.
right,
Uh, 70 cents. That's it.
yeah.
Every other ride that I did was either even or ahead, and most of them were above what I used to get paid
With the
uh,
rate card.
with the rate card in Charleston.
Yeah.
So for instance, last week was probably the best I've seen. The average on the 21, 22 rides I did on Saturday and Sunday were actually over 350.
Okay. All right. So what you
That's a lot.
no, I do believe that
That's a
you do
lot.
your numbers. Look, I do believe you do your numbers. I do believe that, I've seen your numbers. So, this is what, running it as a business looks like, folks. Okay. You guys got to do this. You can't just go, oh, I'm not making money. I'm like, well, if you don't know your numbers, you can't say that. But so do you believe though maybe Uber is adjusting due to seasonality, right? Is there some sort of factor? Do you see that? Maybe in the high season they pay you more because there's more tourism in the city and things like that, and then they kind of adjust, or is it always the same?
From what I've seen over the last several months, and sometimes I'll drive on a Thursday, or I've done every once in a while Monday for some reason. Actually, election day I'm going to be there. I actually choose to drive with the upfront pricing instead of the old card rate, which is actually supposedly higher.
Yeah,
Myrtle Beach is like 94 cents a mile and 11 cents a minute. Um, but you know, I think why they do something
yeah,
is anyone's guess, as you
yeah,
know, and that involves just about anything that we go into, which is one of the problems that we have in dealing with Uber and Lyft is just the communication. Why are they doing that? Well, you know, they are charging people more.
yeah,
And I think maybe what it comes down to is they're charging more people for the ride and they are giving us some of that money. Now, everyone's going to say, yeah, but they're not giving us enough. I get that. But what I've mentioned several times on Facebook is the rides themselves, not surges, not bonuses, not that, just the ride itself
yeah.
is actually paying more
Base
than it
rate.
did 2 years ago. No one, not a single person wants to comment on that. And that's the thing. Look, there are things, and if you want to get into, 5 minutes of whining about Uber and communication and
No,
Uber
no, we
support,
know,
and
we know,
we
no,
can
no,
do
we
that.
don't want to, we don't
We
want to
can
do any
do that.
whining.
But,
Yeah, we don't want to do any whining.
here's something where I believe, at least in Charleston during the day, oh, they're definitely paying more per ride, almost every ride.
Okay. So
So why can't someone say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I don't like what they're paying, but they're paying me more than I did 2 years ago.
yeah, no, and
So
then
check it out.
yeah, no, no, I'm not questioning your numbers. So overall, let's look at the picture, right? Before upfront fares, you would drive the same day, same 12-hour shift or 11-hour shift, whatever, same place, right? And you have a total at the end of the day, and you do 20 trips, 25 trips, whatever. And then now you're doing the exact same thing, right? 2 years later, and your numbers are pretty much the same, if not have improved a little bit, right? So
Yes.
one thing I know you're not going to argue about or push back is our incentives as drivers. In Uber's case, we call it Quest or whatever. We're not talking Surge because I know you're not a Surge hunter or you're not a sniper. You're just taking, they trust the algo and go at it. And so have your incentives declined? And do you factor in that decrease in incentives, if not decrease, literally eliminate those incentives that were decent for a while? Do you consider, I mean, do you factor in those numbers in your overall picture?
Well, the way I look at it is, I know most people go by, what they're making an hour,
Yeah.
uh, but I look at it as per day, and I have for many years. So I know, like last year, I averaged $307 a day for the year.
Okay.
Okay, and I know, well, per hour, oh, that's not enough. I know, but for me, I'm fine with it. But
Okay.
that was I was 5.5% behind the year before because the year before I had over $4,000 in promotions. I
Okay.
had $1,000 on the mileage. And so, yeah, I mean, I was happy being down only 5%.
Yeah.
This year, though, compared to last year, all I had last year was $1,600 or so in bonuses. And right now I'm at $37. So I don't have $1,600, which for me comes out to $15 a day or so,
Yeah.
but I'm actually doing 5 to 6% better than my numbers last year.
Okay. So,
And some
but
of that is just the fact that with upfront pricing, they are actually paying more
okay.
than they used to. Now, I'm not making all that up because sometimes 2 years ago, they were paying more, especially with airport rides.
Yeah.
So an airport ride might have been $18 from downtown Charleston to the airport 2 years ago for me. Well, now it may be 11 to 13. Okay, well, but that happens to be just above or what the rate card was, but they used to pay more.
Yeah.
So
All
they
right.
just changed those things.
But you do see the pushback you're going to get here, right? So a lot of people are going to say, you can't look at it by the day, we'll look by the hour, but that's not the point. The point is, you are saying, to finish this little segment of this behind the wheel, is under upfront fares, specifically just due to upfront fares, nothing more. No incentives. Yes, you agree that incentives have been cut, but you are still grossing the same amount without the incentives, or down 5% as opposed to down a lot more, because under upfront fares, each trip is paying more than the old rate card.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was down 5% last year. This year, I'm up 5 or 6% from last year. So I'm back to where I was 2 years ago. And
Okay.
some of that is directly because they're paying more with upfront pricing in Charleston, and a dollar or two or three on an $8 or $10 or $12 ride. Well, that makes a difference in a day.
Yeah.
Now the
No.
surges are down less, but what I would suggest is if you have upfront pricing, sit down, do take 20, 25 rides. You've said this many times
Yeah.
before, right? Do the numbers and see what it actually is compared to what the rate card was in your city.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know. I want to be able to say, hey, look, I can tell, I can tell, I don't know why they're doing what they're doing, but I can tell that they're doing it. They're paying more. And when they
Okay.
started out, they were not.
Okay.
Clearly, they were not.
No, I get that. And you get all the heat. I'm not even going to comment on this video. I'm just going to let you come in and answer all the comments.
No problem.
So the last thing, I mean, not well, we have a couple of things to go. My, we talked quite a bit, privately, obviously, but I'm gonna break down, just to get your idea about this, right? As far as I'm concerned, we all are dealing with inflation. We are all dealing with cost of living increases. There's no question. I'm sure Charleston is the same, but maybe not the same as Los Angeles, but we're getting killed out here. Okay. And I do understand some of the drivers' points. Like if you adjust it to inflation, right, which is running 5-6% a year, and in some cases more, if you factor in your rent, your maintenance costs, tires have gone up, brake jobs have gone up, oil changes have gone, all these things, right? Because our car is our tool. They're saying that the driver pay has not kept pace with inflation. Just a minute or two. What do you say about that?
Well, that's that's probably true. I would have to agree with that,
Okay.
but I would also say, as a former manager and also a business owner, and I paid independent contractors for 10 years. I used to tell a driver, I said, look, I'd love to pay you more, but there's not more here. I could say that now. It's not comparing myself with Uber, but there isn't anything more I can do here. And when the gas prices were extremely high, I wasn't sure Uber was going to do it, but they did it. They did it for 10 months, and it meant an extra $1,000 in my pocket. But I'm guessing there are most people who would have no idea how much extra money that meant to them. But I'm a numbers guy. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
And I have to actually force myself not to do this, which I'm probably going to try to do this coming week. But it's just, it's fun for me. And look, yes, it's not keeping, if you're full time, it's a very different thing because your expenses are a lot more. And I give people a lot of credit and I have a lot of respect for them and what they do.
I mean,
And
you're not look, you're driving 30 to 40 hours. I mean, you're not like super part-time. Part-time, I would call it soccer mom doing 10 hours a week. You know what I mean? 30 to
right,
40 hours is, I would say, getting close to full-time, right? But
right.
so we're gonna finish with some fun stuff, okay? So, well, we talked about on our show, Show Me the Money, about your wonderful book, which I have read. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about your book, how it has been over the last year since it was published. And FYI, people, you guys want to learn from Jeff how to be the probably on percentage the highest tipped driver because that 325 that he's talking about probably has a solid, I don't know, 20% of it in tips on a daily basis, would you say?
Yeah, something like that. I think for the
Yeah.
year, it's usually
Yeah. Has that
17.
fluctuated, by the way? Are your tips staying constant like every other? You get tipped what, 40, 50% of the trips that you do?
It depends where I'm driving. Myrtle
Okay.
Beach is usually higher.
Okay.
But one thing which has been fun in Charleston, when I started, I was getting 20 to 30% tips
Okay.
from people
Now,
in my.
okay, so this is like not 30% of the fare. You like, okay, you
No,
do
no.
30 trips, 20 to 25%, meaning, I don't know, seven and a half to 10 trips, you're getting tipped.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
my average in Charleston has gone from 20 to 30% to 35 to 40%. And really that has to do with my car. I'm not, I guess I'm part of that, but my car is a museum and I have money now from 58 different countries.
Yeah, we
And
shown
when
that
people
actually.
get in my car, I say, welcome to my museum. And they laugh and then they look around and they realize it really is a museum and people have been very generous. And I've been getting people who are not tourists, who are regular people. The guy I drove on that long ride, yeah, he was the president of a steel company, but he lived there locally, and he enjoyed seeing all the money, and it's really it's because of my passengers. I didn't come up with the idea. They started giving me money and I started putting them up and now I'm putting up more pictures of my passengers too. And people enjoy seeing other people and they know when they get in the car, this is not just another ride.
Yeah.
It's
So
different and
I
it's
mean,
a lot of fun.
you have figured out how to increase your tips in Charleston, Myrtle Beach tourist area. I'm pretty sure you get tipped the same 50, 60% probably. Of the trips, and that is a substantial part of driver's income. I mean, there's no denial there, right? And so, we have a couple of minutes remaining. I'm going to give you the floor. Give our audience some advice. It doesn't have to be rideshare advice, any kind of advice. But obviously we're a rideshare channel, so probably rideshare advice. Maybe how to increase your tips, maybe how to treat their riders better, maybe not to take their frustrations on the rider. I don't know. Whatever you want to talk about. You got 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. That's tough to limit me to two
No, no,
minutes.
no.
No,
For you
not
it
even
is,
in an
yeah.
email can I get away with that. But I would say, look, the business situation today is not the same as it was 2 years ago or 4 years ago or even 6 years ago. So as a business person, and you can add this up any way you want, you can look at it any way you want. You don't have to do crazy things in your car. You don't have to have money hanging in your car. Just do what you want to do. Do what you enjoy. Have some fun. And you know what? If people can tell that you're having fun and you're enjoying what you're doing and you're glad, you're happy to pick them up. Now, I know if you're at night and you're picking up people who are drunk, it's different. I'm not talking about that. I haven't, other than one New Year's Eve, I haven't done that. But what I'm saying is have fun with this. It's up to you. You don't want to drive tomorrow? Don't drive. Well, tomorrow is a Halloween. So,
Yeah,
all right. Well, when you're seeing this, it's Halloween. So you want to drive Halloween? I'm not driving Halloween. Every time I drive, it's like Halloween in my car. I
yeah,
have a mannequin head, and that in itself is priceless. And the passenger who gave it to me, what can I say? She was great.
yeah,
And I promote my passengers. I promote other drivers. If someone had a bad experience, I say, "Hey, I'm sorry about that, but there are a lot of great drivers here, and I'm going to make up for that." And I do the best to make up for it. And look, you can be successful doing this, working 5 hours, driving 5 hours, whatever you want. It's your business. Do it the way you want to and have fun and be safe.
yeah. There you go. I can't say better than that. And here's our sunshine man from Myrtle Beach and Charleston, South Carolina. This is your third, Jeff. I don't know. I think we're gonna finish it here. I'm not sure if there's gonna be a
That's it.
fourth. No, I
Okay.
don't know. But no, I wanted to talk to you about this really because if I didn't know your numbers and you're a numbers guy, I wouldn't do it. But get
Let's
ready for
face
the
it,
storm.
you got tired of getting emails from me.
No, no, I think it's something that needs to be discussed. And I'll never get tired of getting emails from you, although they're a little long-winded, but it's okay.
A little. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so my hat's off to you. Stay healthy, please. Be safe, and I'll see you on the road.
Okay. Sergio, thanks. Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Wheel on the Rideshare Guy. We've been doing these interviews for the past 6 months with very successful drivers from different cities around the nation. Click here for another episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications for other episodes of Behind the Wheel as well as amazing content on our channel.